Welcome to Two Cups of Blood. I'm Matt, semi-retired goth-industrial DJ, IT professional, and I record and release music under the name Vellocet.
Mechno here, also somewhat retired, but sometimes active in the underground DJ and engineer and general nerd about all sorts of different things. My description changes every podcast.
That's fine.
Depending on how I'm thinking of myself that time.
Yeah.
Piece of shit. No, not really. I'm not going to take it to a dark place. No.
That's okay.
Did you drink? Did you have a sip of your?
I just had a sip.
Oh,
yes.
You got to go through the whole, you smell it, you taste it with your eyes first, and then you.
I sniffed it.
And what'd you think?
It's real nice.
Yeah.
So, yes, Paul/Mechno is our drink master, if you will.
I have very, very questionable judgment sometimes, but this is a very, I like this drink. This is a good one.
This is high quality, and this, I take responsibility because I never contribute on this end. So some of the slightly slapdash drinks we've had in the last few episodes are really because I didn't contribute at all, and Paul's pulling this stuff out at the last minute.
No, so, I mean, I'm not gonna. No, don't be. I don't think there's any blame to assume. It's very experimental, and sometimes we try something unorthodox. It's like when you put chicken broth in cereal and vegetable broth.
Yeah.
Vegetable broth and cereal, and it's, disgusting, but what if it was that 1 in a million chance that you found the next culinary sensation? Unlikely, sure.
I suppose.
But we try,
Well, my point was, in contrast to some of those slapdash drinks we've put together in recent times, this is a bona fide adult cocktail. This is a real recipe that we can be proud of. And it's not that it's ours, but why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, so this is based on a cocktail called the New England Daiquiri, taken from the Bitter Truth company that make a variety of different aromatic bitters for drinks. Basically, it's a rum, lemon juice, and bitters. In this variation, there's absinthe involved also, and it's pretty good. It's correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Innsmouth Daiquiri actually kind of has a whiskey characteristic to it.
Yes, it gets it. We have a bar in Albany, the Speakeasy, which tries to do a retro 30s Prohibition era lineup of cocktails, and they have some very complex whiskey and bourbon drinks, and this is very reminiscent of those, maybe because of the bitters, but the rum almost disappears in this, and the combination somehow reminds you of a whiskey. It's very interesting.
So the full rundown is you take 2 ounces of Kraken rum, 1.5 ounces of lemon juice. Well,
if people don't know Kraken, it's a dark rum.
It's a dark rum. You could use any, but going with the whole sea creature thing of Innsmouth, we go Kraken.
Good call.
So 2 ounces Kraken, 1.5 ounces of lemon juice, or AKA 1/3 of a lemon. Depending on your lemon, you're pretty close. Whatever, it'll be fine. And 2 teaspoons of maple syrup. You put that into a cocktail shaker over ice, shake it up real nice. I almost forgot. 2 dashes of chocolate bitters. So you shake it up real nice, and you pour it into a glass that you have rimmed with absinthe. So you don't need much.
Coated?
Yeah, I guess rimming is like the salt stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
or something else entirely.
Oh, man. Oh, man. So, yeah, you put that into the glass, and you swish it around so you get a good coating. You don't need much. A half a teaspoon of absinthe is enough. You just want it to impart a little character without like being an absinthe cocktail. And it's a pretty interesting it really feels kind of sophisticated. It's a mature cocktail, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it has complex flavors going on. It's got some depth to it. So did you coin this the Innsmouth daiquiri?
Yeah.
So this is your personal variation?
Yes, this is my variation.
This is great, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
Yeah. Like it was one of those things where the absinthe contribution came after I wanted the name Innsmouth.
Innsmouth, probably. I
Yeah.
said it wrong.
After I named it, I was like, well, what can I do to bring it closer to that? And, the madness of absinthe, it was appropriate. So, yeah, it's a damn... If you're going to repeat... Oh, there's been some good ones. I can't sell Donkey Kong Country short, but... if you're going to repeat our cocktails, this is a good one. This is a good one to repeat.
Yeah, hopefully this would impress your friends.
Yeah.
I would say.
I think so, yeah.
And loved ones.
Anybody. People you are trying to one-up, like if you want to show them that you're better at making drinks than they are.
Yes.
You make this, and then they're like, shit, dude, okay.
Good point.
Yeah. If that situation arises where... You're making drinks for people you don't like. Anything can happen.
It does happen. You never know.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's a warming drink. It's got that whiskey kind of warming feeling.
I think it's the maple syrup that brings it around to around the whiskey bend. I don't know.
Yeah.
We have a bonus round drink later. We'll see if we can hold our shit together until that.
I expect to dive right into that.
So, is it a taboo topic to discuss? I was curious what podcasts you listen to. I've been dipping my toes into like other podcasts and seeing what they do, how they do it, and what makes them good or not good. I like the Duncan Trussell podcast, except when he like gets like a little body disgusting and he's like talking about chugging jizz and spraying jizz. He's like really fixated on it, and
it's because he's a stand-up, I'm sure.
Yeah, but
he crosses those lines.
Oh, it gets to be too much. Like where I'm like, I've had enough. Especially when he has a guest that is like really. I was like, sometimes his guests are really too into it, but then it kind of, a lot of podcasts, I guess, have some sort of like external factor that they use to ramp up the podcast. Like, I'm positive that at least on occasion, Duncan Trussell is like absolutely baked to oblivion for his podcast. So like, it's really like, subjects can change, and you can tell he's like a really intelligent guy that he can be that baked and still keep track of his conversational threads that like are all over the friggin' place.
Yeah. It's a skill.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I started listening to the Joe Rogan podcast for some reason, like 5 years ago, a long time ago. And I thought that was pretty interesting, and that really got me into it. So that's really my primary, and I still listen to those. I don't listen to every one because he puts out so goddamn many, and they're so long, so I have to be selective about which ones I listen to now. But I got those in the mix, and then I do try to listen to Duncan's because I find him pretty amusing, and some things about Duncan remind me of you somehow, and I don't have any good examples, but some of his mannerisms or something.
I romanticize that I have certain similarity to Duncan on occasion, where like it's almost like he's foolish to the point of accidental wisdom on occasion. And that's, I like to think on occasion I might brush into that, or I'm just incredibly foolish. It's hard to say.
No,
sometimes.
I don't know.
Definitely. Oh, definitely.
So I do try to listen to the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I also listened to Ari Shafir's Skeptic Tank a little bit. Some of those are less interesting, but I don't know. I'm usually entertained by them.
Well, hopefully you mentioned Ari Shafir. You recently had the amazing good fortune to catch him live recently. And
Yeah, he came to town and he played our comedy club that's in the mall, which is odd, but it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was a good time. Put on a good show, and it was my first time seeing like stand up in a sort of a club. I've been to like theaters.
How did it do as a like comedy club?
It was pretty all right. The seating wasn't super ideal. And all the tables are 4-seaters, so they put you with another couple. If you're there with, I was there with my wife, and they had to seat us with another couple because they're trying to fill up the place and fill it front to back, that kind of thing. So,
okay.
Not very spacious, kind of cramped.
Oh, really?
And you're in there for a while. So the food was...
From the outside, it looks like it's going to be a bigger place. Inside, it's not super giant?
It's not tiny. It's a decent size, and it's just a bit cramped at the tables, I guess. The tables are on the small side. But the food's all right, and what I really appreciated about the place is they have, like in a theater, that... and it's probably not carpeting, but the treatment on the walls... So you don't get that terrible,
the fabric
sound.
Yeah.
So that was nice. The acoustics were very good, and
that's great.
You could really concentrate on what was going on, and the people were fairly well behaved. They weren't, trying to talk over the act and stuff like that, because they'll kick you out if you're disruptive.
Why do people? I know people do that, but I don't know why. People, I guess it's because they're hoping that they'll become the focus of the act when they are acting up. And
some people are just attention seekers. Some people are probably idiots, don't know the protocol. Some people are drunk, I'm sure. So, but none of that happened, and it was a good time.
So how did Ari Shafir's stand-up compare with the Ari Shafir podcast?
Well... The podcast doesn't make me laugh. You know what I mean? It's usually amusing. I like his intros, which are like a half hour long sometimes, just him rambling about stupid shit. But his stand-up show is good. His specials on Netflix are pretty good. It's called Double Negative, I believe. And his show is good. I think he's getting a set together for... I think he's going to the Edinburgh Comedy Festival, so he's putting an hour together for that, and I think he's also touring Australia or something. So
oh, good for him! Very cool.
He's getting prepared, and it sounded pretty solid. It didn't seem like he was working too much out, so it seemed like a finished act when I saw it. So it's
cool,
coming along.
Do comedians have opening acts? Do they have opening comedians?
Yeah, they'll bring someone with them usually, or they'll book it. I think as much as they can. When it's under the control, they'll put the show together. So
how was the opening?
She was good. I cannot remember her name. I hadn't heard of her before, but she was pretty good. I think she was from the greater area, either New York City or somewhere around New York. So I know he wasn't using the same opener on all his dates. I think she only did like maybe Albany and Syracuse and one or two more. So
okay,
but yeah, it was consistently pretty good.
That's great. Cool.
Yeah, it was a good time.
So his podcast is not necessarily a comedy act, or
no.
What is that one about? And
it's just he just has conversations with people. So if you don't want to hear him talk to somebody for 2 hours, it's not always worth it. But when he talks to people like Henry Rollins or some dude whose name I can't remember who is going to row across the Atlantic, those are pretty interesting conversations. Other times he's just talking to his comedian buddies, and I'm like, I don't need to listen to this.
Yeah. That's like, I think that's Joe Rogan's format too. Is like his show is basically as interesting as whoever he's talking with. And I will say that with the unfortunate demise of Art Bell, Joe Rogan is kind of the one who fills that niche, who will talk about like conspiracy stuff and go to sort of fringe topics and have people, from all across the spectrums talk. And that's cool. I think it's necessary.
Yeah, Tom DeLonge.
What kind of jam does he?
The To the Stars Academy, the UFO project.
Oh, nice.
All that stuff. Yeah, that was interesting. But
yeah, you nailed it when you said Joe does a lot of podcasts. You really can't fit in that many 3-hour podcasts in your life unless your job is something like you work in one of the Amazon sweatshops and you're like zoning out for 8 hours a day in as intense a focus as possible is an advantage. I don't know. I think it sounds nice to be able to do that because your body just does something and your mind is someplace else, but I don't know. That's not where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I can't do that at my job. I have to think too much and people speaking.
Yeah.
I can't pay attention to that. It's distracting. Yeah. So
it'd be like if you were trying to write, if you were like writing and someone was talking, and you're like, oh, this is not really working.
Yep. So besides those three,
have you listened to My Favorite Murder?
No.
That's really an up and coming. I think it's one of those podcasts that's breaking so huge right now that everyone's talking about it. It's Karen Kill something. I'm spacing on her name. She's a comedian, former writer for the Ellen DeGeneres Show, and they just talk about murder. Okay. There's different murder cases, different murderers, and they talk about what they did, and it's kind of gruesome, but it's not. They never come across as rooting for the murderer. It's just always just creeping each other out and getting into a scared space, kind of talking about this stuff. But there's a couple real nice features they have. Some people like them, some people don't. But there's stuff like the corrections corner, and it's they talk about things that they asserted last episode that may not have been completely right.
Yeah.
So I'll just say, any establishment inspired by their corrections corner, any establishment that is trying to be a cultural benefit, I'm really not that critical of. They're gonna do it the way that they do, and they do the best they can. And I might have, depending on how far in my drink I am, I might have some negative things to say, but I don't want to take away from the fact that I recognize they're doing something culturally important.
Are you apologizing to the low beat?
I'm just saying that by the end of this drink, I might be like, you know what? Fuck the low beat. That place is bullshit. There's nowhere in that place that's correct, because if you're in the front, it's way too loud, even though you have a good spot, or if you're in the back, you can't see shit, and it's way too loud. Come on. But that said, I'm not saying that right now. I'm saying that they have a cultural goal that is really worthwhile, and I appreciate that, and I don't mean to be overly negative about the things that are personal dislikes.
It's better that they're there and maybe not the greatest than them not being there at all.
Yeah, I think that the heart of really why I'm so critical of the low beat, and it's douchey because I think that the guy who runs it or the guy who owns it is actually a pretty cool dude. But I think I'm extra critical because it has a following that is apart from its merit. Sometimes people like something because it's really great, and sometimes people like something because it's really the cool thing to like. And I feel like a lot of the low beats hype is just because it happens to be the hip thing to like, not really because it's on its own merits. So it makes me grade it a little harder, Just like,
Well, there's only two of those places. That type of venue, there's only two of them there. So, if
what's
it's not
the other one?
Paulie's.
Oh, I was going to say, what about the Hollow?
I guess the Hollow's coming up. I don't know. I haven't been there, so.
What was
Not
playing
as
at the
familiar.
Hollow that I don't know that it actually happened? I think it canceled because they didn't get enough pre-order, but was it churches or was it cults or
Could have been cults. I don't know.
yeah. There was something where like I had said I was interested in going and you made a remark of like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Okay, if you want to do that sort of thing, okay."
I don't remember. It was a cut copy.
Yes, I think you mentioned cut copy. It was one of the cut copy-esque.
Okay.
But yeah.
I don't know.
So for anyone who actually doesn't know me personally, which is like probably whenever it gets heard initially, it's like two people maybe who don't know me personally. There's like a whole genre of music that I just default to assuming that it's cut copy. It's like, okay, Postal Service of Montreal, cut copy. They're all cut copy. They're all the same. They're all the same thing to me. I can't wrap my head around them being actually different. It's just like, oh yeah, that stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's fine.
I hear you.
Now, this is a serious question. Is Cut Copy the ones who actually did the commercial for Outback Steakhouse?
Jesus, I don't know. You brought this up before. I don't know
This
these
is the
things.
shit happened, man. And they were pissed. They were pissed about it because Outback Steakhouse is like, we want to use your song, okay? Can we do that? And they're like, okay. And then Outback Steakhouse like ruined it. They rewrote the lyrics and like just used it as like their own jingle, and they changed it.
Oh, I didn't know that
And,
part.
oh yeah, they were really pretty pissed about it.
Oh, boy.
It's tough.
Well, I have another tasting note for this drink.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Now, this is going to be weird and will make no sense to anyone. But I have to say, some of the essence of this, not quite, just right before the aftertaste, between the real taste and the aftertaste, just as it's fading out,
I'm going to try it. Hold on. Okay, go.
I get a sense of my grandparents' basement. Shouldn't have done that when your mouth was full. Sorry.
Oh, you almost choked me.
Now, let me clarify. It was a really nice basement.
Okay.
It was...
All right.
They had like a split level ranch kind of thing going on, and they pretty much lived on the
main
ground floor.
Mm-hmm.
But downstairs, it was the whole size of the upstairs, and it was all open. And my dad's band used to practice down there, and there was a pool table, and it was just really cool down there. So it did have a slightly musty. It smelled a little different than the rest of the house, but it was still cool. And that smell somehow is in the back of my throat as I taste this drink.
That really, for some reason, reminds me of Dante's Inferno.
Okay.
Well, there's like this... I heard, speaking of podcasts, there's one that I can't remember that does like literary restatements of classic literature, like where they give an interpretive reading of it that's like a really abbreviated version, but it cuts it down into size. And they did a reading on Dante's Inferno that was pretty well done. And it focused on like how many of the circles of hell were like really bullshitty. Like like people who were born before Christ who didn't have the opportunity to recognize Jesus as their savior went to like this one circle that was like the circle of the hopeless and kind of shitty.
Weren't they in purgatory, quote unquote?
Yeah, it was. I think purgatory was like an outer shell, like the candy coating on this thing, and then like
On the everlasting hellstopper?
Yeah, when you were actually on the inside, I think that was the first. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it was purgatory, but it was like it was the heretic zone of people who were good, but did not recognize. And that's kind of like this basement where like it's super cool, it's nice, but in the background there's black mold. Like there may be mold right behind the walls that's like, but I think that's mystique in a drink.
Well, yeah. I
Or
mean,
poison.
when
Either
you're
way.
10 years old, black mold doesn't bother you. It's fine.
10-year-olds can handle it.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
But anyway, let me just mention,
Oh yeah, go for it.
very recently, I discovered and got into a podcast called Tape Op, which is about recording. Tape Op is a magazine that for like audio engineers and producers and people who are recording stuff. So, and it's really just interviews with either engineers or musicians. They talk to like Jack White and about the kind of crap he does and him chasing down all his crazy analog equipment and being all old school. And then they'll talk to other people about, just about how they work or big records they worked on or techniques. It can get a little technical, but it's not like super inaccessible to the layperson. It's pretty good.
Did you actually listen to the Jack White
Yeah.
episode? Did he talk about his record?
What do you mean?
He has this one record where he actually, and I say record like vinyl because it's a very specific product. He made a vinyl record that he wanted to make the absolute pinnacle of vinyl technology. Do you hear about this?
No, and I don't know if he specifically mentioned it, but he did touch on like getting a lathe and some of the cutting vinyl stuff.
He did something crazy. Like, I'm trying to remember some of the things that he did. So I know for sure one thing was that there's an actual etched hologram in the center of the thing so that as it spins, it captures different aspects of the hologram and you see like, I think it's a flying angel that animates as the record turns because
Icarus?
of
It's like a Zeppelin thing?
something like like that,
I kid.
Zoso? Is that the Zofo? Whatever. Yeah, Zeppelin.
I'm no expert.
I don't like Zeppelin.
It's fine.
Okay. But yeah, he did stuff with spiral grooves where like depending on where you start the record on the outside, it takes a different spiral groove to the inside.
That's crazy.
It really was like everything amazing that you could do on a record by the physical attributes of the vinyl, he did. And it was like, it was pretty cool. It was enough that I was like, I would consider getting this. And then I like forgot and, totally didn't. But that's cool.
Was it a Jack White release? Was it some other permutation of the bands he's
I
in?
think it was Jack White.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I'm not familiar, but that sounds pretty cool.
It could be next time we have a podcast. I'm like, okay, that was actually Steven Tyler. Had nothing to do with Jack White, and it was just a regular album with his face on it. That's all there was. I'm sorry, I misremembered, but we'll see. We'll see. No, I do think it was Jack White, and I think it was like all these crazy special features that you can only do with vinyl.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's a good factor. So, I pulled a sidetrack. Tape on?
Tape op. Operator.
Op. Okay.
Stands for operator. So that would be typically the assistant engineer. The real engineer is at the mixing desk pulling faders around, and the tape op would sit off to one side and just is hitting, record and stop and rewind and all that fun stuff, among other things, But that used to be a role in a traditional studio. Now, most studios cannot exist in today's economy. So that is kind of something that's fairly obsolete and a term that's not used much anymore. So
what is it about the modern economy that's incongruent with recording studios?
Well, I won't be able to articulate it as well as I've heard it spoken about, but several of the podcasts I've listened to talk about this. One of them was an interview with Steve Albini, and he touched on this as well. It's like 30 years ago, you'd be to book out a studio, like a good studio for a day is maybe like $2,000, right? Well, today you can book a day of studio time and $1,200, $800. Like, they can't charge as much as they used to.
Because with computers, I mean, people are just like able to make a pretty decent recording studio in their basement.
Exactly. So there's a lot more competition. So you really have to have good gear or really good expertise in order to get anyone to come in the first place. And it's just, the cost of all the equipment is going up, but they can't charge as much for studio time. So it's really a tough thing to do. Like, if your dream is to build a studio and record people for a living, you're just fucked today. It's not going to happen unless you already have a facility that is acoustically perfect and you inherit some equipment or something. You're not going to recoup your investment. Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things, It's a little sad because I do think that there is, at least in the short term, until software and like other measures close the gap on what's lost, I think that there is a step back in quality that, they come up to like 80% the quality of a real studio, but they don't have the expertise to know what is in that 20% that they've lost. And then a generation goes by and it's like, I do think that, I think to say a generation just dates myself. I think that like these days a generation happens in like 6 years. That's a generation now. Like, things move really fast. People realize, we lost stuff, and they bring experts in to do special modeling, and there you go. But I think that they don't know what they've lost, and they don't have the ear for what's missing, and so there's going to be like a lapse in quality, at least for a while.
Yeah, it's great that the technology is accessible, and making recordings is easier for people now, and there's a lot of tools that help you do a lot of things. But if you don't do it full time, it sounds like elitist bullshit, but you do develop an ear for certain things, and it might not make a huge difference, but some of those subtleties in some of that precision in what you're trying to do in the engineering and the mixing process, really, when you add it together, cumulatively, it does make a big difference in the finished product. So,
oh sure, I mean, there's a tangent that I could go on about. There is an appeal of a tribal chant. So, like, when you have something like certain songs that become outrageously popular, despite like what you could really validly criticize as like serious shortcomings, and they become wildly popular despite that, like the Gucci Gang. It's like this rap thing, and like that's all they say is Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang.
Okay.
And it's horrible. But despite all its shortcomings, it's popular enough to be like super huge that even I know about Gucci Gang. Well, which for what it's worth. But
right.
So, or like to take it back a couple of years, Soulja Boy. Remember, Soulja Boy was like on the radio, and it was like this homebrew thing. He did it on it sounded like he did it on a cassette tape deck in his like bedroom. It was really bad.
No.
And it was just this rhythmic thing that was really basic, but it was a common denominator kind of basic, and it just like everyone was like, okay, I can get with this.
Yeah.
And it caught on despite being horrible.
Well, technical perfection does not make a hit record.
That's true.
But people tend to think technical perfection will help you get a hit record, but I don't know.
It's a funny thing.
Yeah, I mean, to get a hit record today, I don't even know what that means anymore. Like,
it's like a psyops thing. It's like a hit record involves like a team of scientists figuring out the socio-psychological state of the youth of, 90% of the demographic and like plotting something.
yeah, it's terrible. I mean, you have to almost intentionally. I don't know. I don't know what the mentality is behind people who try to make pop hit records. Like, you're just aiming at something so inauthentic, or I don't know how you make something that has artistic integrity that's aimed to be as big as possible. Those two things don't seem to go together. You know what I mean?
Well, I will say there's two artists. There's Marianas Trench, who actually wrote Shake It Off for Taylor Swift, and there's Sia, who is now doing stuff on her own but has been ghostwriting for big acts for a really long time. And there is sort of like this perverse, I'm going to make you the most beautiful, delicious looking shit sandwich, and you're not going to realize how horrible it is, but I realize what I'm giving you. And that like, there's an artistic, like, there's a perverse artistic like element to it where they're fully aware that they're making like a slab of pop garbage, but they're cool with that because they know who's eating it.
Okay.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just it's just strange. It's like, I don't know. There's a line between making basically anyone who's in the music business to make money is out of their minds because it's so hard. I mean, the reason you want to be in the music quote unquote business is because you want to express yourself and make music. So if you're not doing what you want to do, if you're chasing some sound that you're trying to get to just to be bigger, I mean, that's never going to end well, you know? Maybe you'll make a living, but
It's a big maybe too.
It's not where I want to be.
Yeah. Well, I think that we're kind of heading towards a Star Trek kind of society. Like, that's the general trajectory. Like, people are right now very, very, very financially tethered. Like, they need jobs to live. But with automation and whatnot, we're really getting to the point where how much do people actually need to work and how much can things just be done? And in Star Trek, that's like the utopian thing where there's sort of a post-economic society. Money may exist for certain reasons, but for the most part, everyone's basic needs are met and they strive for personal fulfillment. And that's really the goal. Personal and cultural fulfillment. They feel reward by trying to forward society and being a part of something. And I think that's maybe an optimistic, but I'm hopeful that it's a potentially realistic view of where our society is heading.
It would be great if we can get there. I don't see it happening, until we stop killing each other.
Well,
but, one thing at a time, I guess.
Yeah. You don't want to put the cart before the horse. There's plenty more people to kill. Like,
yeah.
I
don't know. I think about warfare and drone strikes and shit, and it's like, oh yeah, let's just automate those, and then you're gonna have Terminators coming after you, and I just don't want to think about that.
Maybe that's cool though.
No, that will not be cool.
Well, no, it's obviously not cool, but at the same time, there's this thing, and this is my own theory. This is okay. I'm fully ready for you to call bullshit on this, but I have this theory about human like a strength of humanity as a species, and it's this ability to put the collective organism ahead of the singular organism. And so in times of crisis, people are the most badass species hands down, because there is nothing that can stand. It's like we're like ants, except every ant is a fucking genius and can do like absurd shit and is like individually creative and dangerous in their own right. And they will absolutely give their lives to protect the species in general. But the problem is when it becomes like the apex and the humans are at the top, that's when they start putting these like artificial delineations between like, well, black people are a different race than white people. And like, I don't remember who it was who I heard that like had rejected the term of race. It's like, race is such a bullshit thing because we're all the same species. There is no different race. That's like, just stop saying that. We're all humans.
Yeah.
Like the color of one's skin and where people were born are not something that inherently separates us. So we need this other, because we have this instinct to group with our own kind to overcome. And when we're on the top, that just becomes really like a savage thing where we create what is the other and like just act asinine about it. That's my theory.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is okay. I studied computer science and physics, so I don't have any actual expertise in this field, but all the same,
That's fine. Yeah, there's a very strong tribalism thing that's in all of us, and I think one of the great things in life is finding where you fit in with other people. You know, some people are into their neighborhood, they like their neighbors, whatever. Some people, it's the social circle. You know, we have kind of this goth-industrial scene, or at least our segment of the scene that we're a little more intimate with.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's your fucking tribe, man. And you do stuff together, you do stuff for them, and it feels good, and, you know, you get that sense of belonging. So I encourage everyone to find their people, find your tribe.
It's a tough road to figure, like, even for me, and I feel like I've been advocating goth industrial culture as a true worthwhile culture to preserve. For a long time, when someone would ask me what kind of music I was into, I would just say alternative, because it was like somewhat like vulnerable to say goth industrial, because it's like, oh, you know, that it's so other that it's like easy to be pegged as like an outsider and be, you know, picked on, ostracized in some way. And so only recently I was like, well, you know, I'm cool with it. It's real enough, and I believe in it enough that I can just say, yeah, I'm into goth industrial, and you know, it's truly a valid culture and doesn't deserve the shit that it gets. But
Yeah, totally. And depending on, you know, your local scene, and if you can find people with similar interests, I mean, I don't know who's eventually going to listen to this, as you say, but I feel fortunate to have met you, and through you, the rest of the sort of community. And I'm pretty introverted. I don't really talk to a lot of people or hang out with them, but
I think that's really that's like a pretty common thread, though, is like introverts like talking to other introverts, because when an introvert is like, yeah, I can't really hang out with people today, another introvert isn't like, what's wrong?
yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I was feeling that way actually myself. I get you.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's tough, but
there's a sense of community, and I feel fortunate to have met the circle of friends that I have now, and
Yeah, it's a good group of fierce people.
Yeah.
They really take care of each other and try to do the right thing for the most part in general.
and that we know who we are. You know what I mean? There's, in the 90s there was a lot of talk about posers or whatever, but anyone who's into our stuff, who comes out, who dresses up, they mean it.
Yeah.
And there's an artifice to it, but it's a genuine artifice, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. There's like I think it's different here. So like if anybody is outside of the Capital District like listening area, it's a different thing here. I've used the term gutter goth and proud, but it's like people don't give a fuck. It's like, we like this music, it's fun. The only thing that is not tolerated is intolerance. And you just go out, you're not going to like everyone who you're out there with, but you all just get along because you're all weirdos, and you just accept that, like, this is where I'm accepted. This is where I don't catch judgment for just being who I am. And that's really valuable. So, like, that's like this little biosphere that we have here that's really, I don't know if it's unique, but it feels unique and it feels special. It's like some people are glammy, and that's not all that important. Some people are, show up in their work clothes, and you're just, you're happy to see them too, because it doesn't matter how they're dressed. It's, that you accept them, they accept you, and you're there to like enjoy the culture. So it's, I don't know, I think it's a unique thing, but I'm not super well traveled, so
Yeah.
I can't say for sure, but it feels special. I know that it's special. I don't know if it's unique. I actually hope it isn't unique. I hope there's pockets of like resistance all over the place where people are like, yeah, enough bullshit. We don't need bullshit. We just need people to get along and work together, and that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, if you can't go out somewhere and have a good time at a place that's set up for you to go and have a good time, then Jesus, just chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
Just check it at the door. Just go to the fun place and have fun.
Yeah.
And bitch about things another time.
Oh my God. Can I bitch for a second about Dave & Buster's again?
I love
Holy
hearing you
shit.
bitch.
It's the worst.
Dave & Buster's is fucking terrible.
Dave & Buster's is a casino for children of all ages. And everything about
You're giving casinos a bad name.
Well, they do the casino things. Everything about it is like absolutely engineered to be as like confusing and bewildering as possible. The structure inside is all crazy, so you cannot, from anywhere you're standing, you cannot see an exit. It just is like loud
You're
video
trapped.
games everywhere.
Yeah.
And the games don't work on quarters or tokens. They work in credits that are in like decimal form. Like I was playing these games that are 3.8 credits.
Oh.
And I had to load my card with like, I guess like a casino. I really wanted to run out of money on my card much faster than I did. Like I put like about $20 on a card, and it was me and a couple friends, and I was like big spender. I was like, everyone use my card. I just want to get the fuck out of here. And I'm passing it around, and games are like 3.8 credits each, and I have like 170 credits. And I'm like, fuck. So like I'm, just breezing through. The video games are all bullshit.
They're terrible selection, right?
Well, there's a couple games. I will say one game that was really good, but for the most part, it falls into categories of games that are okay, but have like a ridiculous difficulty curve where like you get most of the way through the first level and you're like, it's super easy. You're just like, boom, 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 I'm great at this game. And in the last like 30 seconds of the level, the difficulty ramps to insane and you are obliterated. And then you're like, oh, I lost. But because the rest of it was easy, you're like, well, I'll throw more coins in and keep going. But no, it's a mistake because that's bullshit.
Yeah. You gonna talk about their food?
I didn't eat, but I did order drinks. I ordered a Red Bull. I ordered a Well vodka and Diet Cola. And I ordered a cider and a shot of Maker's Mark. And that was $25. I'm pretty sure it was like a $10 Red Bull. I really have no idea because, like, I don't know how those 3 drinks totaled 25. But I was, I didn't even get upset because I was like, I knew I was coming into Dave & Buster's. And I still went to the bar. I knew what I was doing. Like, there's no one to blame except me.
Yeah.
And, fuck this place, but I did this to me.
Well, spoiler, the food sucks too.
I believe it.
Yeah.
When were you, how long ago was it that you were there?
2-3 years ago.
Yeah, I went the first time I went was right after opening day. Like, it was like literally within a week of them opening, and they did not have their shit together.
If they delivered on the promise of what they're supposed to be, because what they're supposed to be, minus the pizza, is an adult Chuck E. Cheese.
Yes.
But they are not an adult Chuck E. Cheese. They are the most ghetto piece of shit version of that image.
Oh. To think of a less well-executed Chuck E. Cheese is hard.
Chuck E. Cheese was a magical wonderland when you were small. The pizza tasted great. They had all the video games you wanted to play. You go to Dave & Buster's and there's a bunch of shit you haven't heard of or is lame.
Or is a phone game that's played on a giant screen. That's the other category of bullshit game. It's like, I don't want to fucking play Fruit Ninja on a 4-foot screen. This is ridiculous.
You don't want to play Giant Pac-Man?
Well, not really, no.
Yeah, me neither. If they had like a Tekken game or something arcade,
They had Injustice.
Okay. An arcade Injustice?
Sort of.
Sort of?
There was no joystick.
What?
Yes. You had to scan collectible trading cards in order to load your character. And it was almost like Telltale games where you had like moments of decision where you could do certain actions. It was not really a fighting game. It was more like them just taking your money pretty much. But
disappointing.
Yeah, disappointing. But I did really enjoy the game of Alien Covenant. They had it was a shooter. There's like lots of shooting games. So there was a shooter that was pretty interesting and it was decent graphics and it actually was better than the movie Alien Covenant by a wide margin because there was creativity. There was different variety of alien. Like there was flying, like sort of like they look like manta rays, but they could fly in the air and they kind of had facehugger aspects. So it was like kind of what would happen if they really branched out in an ecosystem rather than like the first step into an ecosystem, which was I don't know, what do they call the giant? I have to pull myself back because Alien Covenant was such a piece of shit.
Aw.
It was real bad.
It was better than the Prometheus shit, right?
I definitely preferred Prometheus, for sure. Because the aliens that didn't eat somehow magically got bigger. They went from being the size of like a football when they burst out of a chest to being like a basketball player only eating the occasional head of a person.
Yeah.
Like there's no conservation of mass. That doesn't work like that.
You don't know their metabolic rates and all that stuff.
They should weigh like 2 pounds. You should kick them and they should fly across the room because there's nothing in them. Like, this is not the way it works. This, like,
Maybe
I'm
they're
sorry.
hollow inside. You don't
Maybe,
know.
but they were not getting kicked across the room. They were formidable. It was not the way that they did it. There was so much that was bullshit in that movie. Whereas Prometheus, I had been curious about the engineer culture ever since seeing the first Alien, when they were on the ship and there was the giant, like, skeleton carapace thing. And
Yeah.
It was just like, it gave me so many questions, and I love the questions that it brought up in me. But
How were they answered?
uh,
Not very well.
for the most part, okay.
All right.
I mean, the end. It's a tangent that, like, okay, so they didn't answer every question great in Prometheus. And there was a lot of, like, dumb shit. Like, nobody who was an expert in their field acted like an expert in their field. Like, the geologist didn't know shit about geology. And the biologist was, like, a nincompoop and
Yes.
just wanted to check out the penis snake things. And, like, the dick snakes were awesome. He was like everything is scaring the shit out of this dude until he sees a dick snake. And then he wants to, like, get her up close and personal.
Yeah.
Didn't make sense. 2 steps back, Alien Covenant game was good.
Good. I didn't know it existed.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, I would not say to go into Dave & Buster's to see it.
I will not.
Don't. Yeah,
I will
don't.
not.
It was so bad that when I got out, we stopped at the supermarket, and I gave my Dave & Buster's card that still had like 100 credits on it to the cashier. I was like, do you go to Dave & Buster's? Just take this. I never want to go back there.
Nice.
It was the Azkaban of the mall. Do you know Harry Potter, Azkaban?
No.
Yeah, it's a place where there's no hope and you just feel like everything good has been sucked out of you. That's Dave & Buster's.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, do we want to debrief? We talked a lot last time about the Covenant show that was coming up. Do we want to touch on that at all? It's a tough subject.
It's tough. It's tough. I'm just going to say, I have things to say about it, but I don't want to run on.
That's fine.
So,
I'll give you my impression.
yeah, what did you think?
It was nice that they played the popular songs. They had a good set list. They kind of mixed up the old stuff and the new stuff, and they played almost every old song you would want to have heard.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think the sound was amazing. Our friend Andrew did his best, but the venue was, fighting back, if you will. And I thought on the whole, it wasn't great for me. It was awesome that they came. Like, I'm still kind of blown away that they came and played our little tiny club. And it was really cool to see what they do. And I didn't know what's his name of How Job was going to be playing with
Daniel
them.
Meyer.
Daniel
I had
Meyer,
actually a pretty interesting moment with Daniel Meyer.
Okay.
I went up to him and I was like, "This is really awkward. It's probably not a compliment that you get a lot, but I'm pretty sure you were the one who did the soundtrack for the Xbox game Tao Fang Fist of the Lotus, and I just wanted to say that was brilliant. It's really one of the best game soundtracks ever, and like I really appreciate it." And he was actually genuinely surprised, and I could tell he doesn't actually get that a lot. And he was like, "Oh, okay, thank you."
Nice.
But that was it. But it felt like it was a life completion arc when I realized that Daniel Meyer was the one who had done that, and then like actually getting to the point where I could face to face congratulate him on it. Plus, I thought that were you there for the encores?
I only saw the first thing, and then we had to cut out.
Yeah.
So the very last song we missed. We missed Dead Stars.
You missed Dead Stars.
And for our crowd to have Dead Stars performed for us,
That was nice.
it was a huge thing, but
Yeah.
I wasn't there
But
for it.
the one that you were there for was actually, I don't know if it was actually a Covenant song. I think it might have been a Hojab song.
Well, they started the last encore with Lightbringer, right? Bring the light. No?
Maybe.
I can't remember now. I thought that was the one they were playing, which was the single from their last...
Is it the one that Daniel was singing?
I didn't see that. So
Yeah,
maybe
so
there was one in
he
between.
sung one of the encores. I think it was the encore, but he only sung one song, and he had like really good energy. So
Oh, cool.
that was cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I get the feeling they won't be coming back.
well, I feel like that too, but I feel like it has nothing at all to do with, not directly with how the show went. So you touched on there being a couple problems with the show, and yeah, there were a couple issues, but I think I'm going to be real delicate because I don't know. This was not a show I was involved in putting on, but I have the feeling that they had a tour manager who did not do everything the way that they would have liked. I don't know that their tour manager was bad at their job, but I think that, they didn't get booked in venues that they really wanted to get booked in. They got booked in much smaller venues, mostly because the tour manager was not as adept at their position as they could have been. So there's I think that you can actually hypothesize that is the genesis of all the problems that happened.
Okay.
Because of things that the tour manager did that were sort of amateur mistake. And I don't mean amateur, I mean just they were new to what they were doing perhaps, but certain mistakes that were made, everything cascaded, everything that went wrong that night, and it went pretty well considering, stemmed from the band showing up hours late.
Yeah.
They did not get a sound check. They did not get to dry run anything. They came in and demanded that all lights be turned off. And as part of this lights turning off, there are certain switches that actually cut an outlet to one of their amps, so they didn't have the monitors. But it's things that would have come out in a dry run.
Yeah.
That totally didn't have the opportunity to come out. So, it's yeah, there were issues, but for the most part, the biggest issue, I think, was the band came through the door cranky. They came through the door not wanting to be there. They were running hours late. They were irritated about that. They were irritated with the places that they got booked by their tour manager. They I could just feel that they didn't have a real positive energy to them. And despite being absolutely professionals and doing, having done most of the songs they did plenty of times to do a great job of them, they just had this feeling like they didn't want to be there. And everything that they said that was supposed to mean that they appreciated the crowd, I didn't exactly believe because they were irritated to be there.
It came off a little strange. Yeah. And when they were kind of jesting with Andrew about some of the things that happened with the sound, they were trying to make a joke of it, but they weren't laughing with him. It felt like they were laughing at him.
Yeah, a little bit. So yeah, there was this one point where they said he's doing the best he can, which that was sort of a backhanded thing to say.
It's awful patronizing, yeah.
Yeah, which was was ultra douchey because
No fucking sound check. The guy's doing everything he can.
They really have to say that, like, nobody that had they said when problems happen, this is the best any professional could do. That's what they should have said, instead of, look, he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's giving it a good shot. That was like kind of a bullshit thing. Yeah. And I'll call them on that. And I'll call them on coming across like they didn't really want to be there, which is, you know, maybe they didn't. Maybe they wanted to be playing much bigger venues. And, you know, that's, if you commit to something, commit. Don't phone it in, because all you do is hurt your brand.
Yeah.
Like, and I felt like it was a good show. It was like, it was super, super epilepsy harsh.
Yeah, the lighting was a bit.
They wanted this transportive effect. If I can paint a picture, they wanted a transportive effect for their act where they were backlit by these constant multicolored strobe lights that were relentless, like, and lots of fog. So it was really hard to get photographs of them. It was really hard to tell what was going on. Everything was flashing constantly through the whole, like, everything they did. It was tough. I mean, they're great. They're really good artists, but they didn't want to be there. That's how I felt, that they didn't want to be there. And I don't know, it's tough. It's like, well, if you don't want to be here, why did you fucking come here? I could just listen to your album and that'd be okay.
Yeah.
You know, or I could travel a couple 100 miles if I really felt like it and catch you someplace where you really wanted to be. But
right.
But, you know, whatever.
Well, I mean, our crowd came out, and I think most of them enjoyed themselves. So, you know, it was as good as it could have been. I think there was a few things the venue could have done, as far as, you know, like the subs going out. That seems like a technical issue they could clean up if anyone cared. But
yeah,
that's been an issue off and on for a while now.
I'm not going to say anything too critical. I mean, there's just criticism that could be levied, but, you know, it's a place that's home, and for all its faults, it's still like homey and is safe, and it feels that way. It would be great if certain things were fixed and there was better upkeep, but, you know, at the same time, they're business people. They're like really want to sell the establishment, and so, you know, I get it.
Yeah.
It's not an excuse. I'm not like critical. I'm not like absolutely taking steaming shits on Low Beat.
Not talking about Voltaire here.
Oh my God. You're just baiting me here. Fuck that guy.
It is what it is. You know,
yeah.
they're not in the mode of investing in it right now.
Yeah. I mean, their thing is like, if it's good enough, then it's good.
Yeah.
You know, and unfortunately, good enough is eroding to not good enough over time, because you really, that sort of, the amplifiers don't last forever especially when, you know, they're operated under sound engineers who don't know what they're doing and drive them too hard, and things like the equipment wears out.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Especially when there's no like home sound engineer to keep a hold of things and really keep the standards up and tell people what the hell they're supposed to be doing.
I'm cracking a cold one. So how would you do it? Would you? Now, I've speculated this. If I were running a club, the question is, I wouldn't want to make event runners hire one of my guys as sound engineer and put that much overhead on them being able to execute their event. But at the same time, I also wouldn't want a nincompoop damaging equipment because they don't know what they're doing and louder is better and they don't care. So like how would you handle that?
Well, I don't know anything about A, running a club, B, owning a club, or C, running live sound. But if I was in that situation, if I had a couple grand invested in a decent soundboard and PA speakers and acoustics for the room, I would have an engineer on staff who's at least on call to support whoever is trying to run sound. I would have something documented as to what you're supposed to be doing, the levels, that you're supposed to set for the house, and someone who can either be there or is available on call to help you through it and to ensure nobody's wrecking the fucking sound system. I don't know if that's realistic, but that's what I would try to do.
Well, there was a talk about, I had heard someone had postulated that the sound room or the soundboard either needs to be like, there should be a mode, like a certain preset. What do you think?
It's pretty good.
Nice, yeah. Drink 2 is the Monster Ultra Sunrise, which is the Ultra Orange with chocolate vodka.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. Alchemia chocolate infused vodka. That's nice. It's
Not
very
bad.
nice, yeah.
Yeah.
So like I had heard someone say like there should be a preset for a DJ night where use these channels, set everything like this, and that board is locked. Don't manipulate anything.
No reason to fuck with it.
Yeah, it's good. You have your lines. That's it. That's all you need. And that makes sense. I think that would be good. And if there was, a live act that required actual sound engineering, that's when, you say, okay, you either have someone that has gone through training with us that we can vouch for, or you hire us to do sound for you. But those are your two options because we can't have you fucking our shit up.
Exactly. And if you have the bar staff closing up at the end of the night, check the connections or whatever, and you see that someone has changed things or done something, against whatever rules you establish, you kick them out. You don't ask them back.
See, that's the tricky is.
If you're going to wreck my shit, you don't get to work here.
Yeah, but they're in like a vulnerable position because this goes way back. Do you remember what the heck did they call it? It was the dubstep crew that used to be in there.
I wouldn't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Anyhow, it's back when dubstep was at its height. And
when was that?
Just a few years ago, maybe.
I'm so out of touch.
3 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe 5 years ago at this point. It was at its height, and they were getting monster crowds every time. And they were also not entirely symbiotic. They would leave the place worse than they got it. They got it every single time. But the crowds were so big that, like, financially, they couldn't just say, don't come back, until eventually the crowds fell off enough and they were still destructive and they were like, yeah, don't come back. That's it. So, you have people who make mistakes and, like, so after the Covenant show, I was not a promoter or a booker, but I'm always helpful in any way I can for cultural events. So I was helping, and I reached out after the fact because I cared that there was an event the next night on Friday that might run into trouble. And I think really that's like the benchmark is you want events that give a shit what the next people are walking into. And if you have that, it's not going to be that bad. Like, they're not, if something goes wrong, they will mention, like, for some reason, the entire left channel disappeared. They don't leave the left channel disappeared, not say anything for the next, and then it goes from Saturday to next Friday, and someone walks in to half the sound not working. So, it would be nice if everybody cared about the next cultural thing that was happening there, but I don't know, it's tough.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, in other news, I know Strangers just released a new record. And
They did.
I hear good things about it.
Did you get it?
No, I listened to a couple things and I wasn't a huge fan. I think my wife has it though, and she really likes it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got it and haven't listened to it yet.
Okay.
There's a couple other releases that I'm way more enthusiastic about. But,
like what?
I've really liked the new Lizette release, which is this. It's odd, but it's sort of synthy, Ukrainian or Eastern European feel. It's neat. But wait, no, I don't want to pull away from Strangers.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Strangers, yeah.
All right.
So it just came out. Like, am I wrong? It just came out a couple of days ago.
Yeah, very recently. Not sure exactly. In the last week or two, for sure.
And your cohort enjoys it and has been listening. See, that's the danger of podcasts. Is like when I'm listening to podcasts or audiobooks, I have all this new music that I get, but I don't give it the time that I really should.
Yeah.
Mostly you mostly listen while you're driving?
To podcasts, yeah, and then I listen to music at work. But again, I'm working, so it's hard to pay attention to what I'm listening to.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to process new music and your attention is split, it's very different than I don't know. I feel like years ago, I used to, when I had like a stereo, when everyone had stereos, you would sit down and listen to music sometimes. Not often, but sometimes, if you had the time and you had something new that you were excited about. And today I don't know, for some reason it's harder to carve out that time to do that.
No, that's correct. I mean, everything is multitasking.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine just sitting down and listening to music. I can't. It's like I can imagine sitting down and listening to music and trying to mix it, like see what I would mix with a certain song. But it's like I might put something on and then fuck around on the internet, like look up some project info or whatever it is I happen to be fucking around with at the time. But
it's hard to sit still and just listen to something.
I can't do it.
Do nothing else. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, smartphones have fucking changed us. It's weird.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, so I haven't, I find that when I'm in the car, that's when I do my best music listening. That's when I can do, like, my most focused attention to music. It's because I really can't, like, be looking up data sheets. I can't be, doing other shit that I would be doing.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you're listening at work and you're only kind of listening, and at the end of the day, something has stuck with you, you know that is like apex predator of your collection. That stuff you don't even have to remotely be listening. It's going to latch onto you and you can find the giant mega hit that way. Like,
that's true.
But anything that exercises subtlety is maybe going to be missed. The new Venus and Aries is really good. And I think that's actually a pay what you want release on Bandcamp.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so
I'll have to check that out because I did really enjoy seeing them when they played a couple of years ago here.
did I tell you about how like Verena? I didn't really understand Verena, and I didn't think that she was a warm, like, accessible person. I didn't get it. But then, like, at one point later, like, she had been drinking and I had been drinking, and I just went up to her and I was like, hey, you guys got t-shirts? And she was like, no, we're just starting out. And I
Aw.
said, yo motherfuckers need shirts. and then, like, from that point, we were friends.
Oh, good.
Then we were cool.
Excellent.
But, yeah, like, I think that, like, it's the first, this is tough. I'm not racist. Well, I'm not more racist than people are inherently racist, because I think that there's a certain degree of xenophobia in everybody.
Okay.
But I really, historically, do not like the Spanish language.
You mentioned this last time.
I mention it a lot.
I
But
just edited our last podcast this morning, so excuse me, I have an intimate knowledge now.
Railed on Spanish.
A little bit. You had mentioned that one of their songs was in Spanish.
Yeah,
and you
and
never
it's-
understood that.
It's really good.
And then when
yeah.
you made that connection, then you were like, "Oh wow,
Yeah, so like, yeah, best Spanish song I've ever heard.
awesome!"
Yeah, so that's that. So of the not Stranger is there someone in Strangers who is in something else that you know of?
I have no idea. To be honest,
Okay.
I don't keep a close tabs like that.
Yeah, interesting. I'll have to look into it, because for some reason I thought that there was some connection between Venus and Aries and Strangers.
It's possible, but I'm not aware.
I was tempted to look to grab the pocket search engine and do a check.
Don't do it.
No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going
No
to do that.
multitasking.
Nope, no.
Drinking and talking, that's as much as we can handle.
That's more than I can handle, obviously. Anyhow, let me just drink this.
So I had notes about a couple things to talk about, but of course I did not bring them with me, so I feel like an idiot.
No, it's cool. I also had things that I was like, oh, we can totally. Nope, gone. Because they occur to me in the car, and by the time I get to work, like as soon as I get through the door, I'm like looking for a pen to write it down, and then somebody's like, the bin files are all corrupt. What are we gonna do? And I'm like, oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah. Well, do you have, let's talk about work problems for a quick sec.
All right.
At my workplace, I'm now in a developer type of position,
All right. Badass.
which I've not really been trained for, but I do my best.
Mm-hmm.
And our main problem, and this happens over and over again and will not stop happening, is that the business will give us requirements. And we'll have a grooming session where we say, okay, does this mean this? And they say yes. And we say, great, we'll build this for you. And then I build it. And then I say, okay, when you said this means this, was that right? And they will say no. What I meant was something totally different. And then I will have to totally change what I did because they screwed me yet again. And this has been the story of this company for the 13 years I've been affiliated with them. And it just doesn't stop. Now you're with a younger company, a startup, right?
Well, yeah, they've been around for like 10 years. Or
Oh,
so.
they have? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, which is not all that old.
Well, it's somewhat significant.
Yeah, it's I find that there's really two kinds of businesses. And this is an analysis I formed when I was in between jobs. Excuse me, when I was freelance. We're going to just go with that.
Okay.
And the analysis was you can either work for a place that is a stressed out organism that is a regular business, or you can work for a place that is like a corpulent organism that is at least related to something monopolistic. So, like working for a cable company, which is inherently monopolistic because cable companies have franchises and only one operates within an area. And if there's a cable company, they have all these rights to the right of way on the telephone poles. And it's not like someone else can come in and create a competing product. It just, you can't. But it's a very different organism to work for something that is like part of a monopoly in an area. They really, it's nicer to work there because you just do your work at the pace you can. And at the end of the day, everybody realizes that's the only show in town. It's not like someone's going to go elsewhere. You just try not to get in too much trouble doing what you do. And then, you know, with the other thing with like an actual competitive organism, there's a certain element of like excitement because everything is always like taking advantage of situations and getting better deals and like adapting to environments as quickly as possible. But there's also a thing where the business is like really moving around a lot, and like even if you feel like you're super important and are doing good work and are well liked, you can't tell that there isn't going to be a business shift and you're going to be less important and be eliminated. So it's, you know, it's unfortunate. That's why I think I may still buy a food truck, because everybody eats and everybody, you know, if you can find a time when people want to eat when there's not a lot of option, that's a good market, I think. But anyhow.
So what kind of goth-industrial food are you going to serve?
I already got this worked out.
Yeah?
It's going to be a food truck that serves, it's called Bubble Dog, and it's artisanal hot dogs and French fries and bubble tea.
Oh.
And it's going to operate from roughly 9 o'clock until 5 a.m. Only on Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
Because the way this area is set up, after like 11 o'clock, there's almost no option for food. People are still out drinking and doing stuff, but there's no food options. So you just go to where they are in a food truck, park out front, clean up, move to the next location, repeat. So that's the business model that I've kicked around. But anyhow, so like, yeah, would you consider where you work part of like one that is like a competitive organism where they change enough, or would you say it's sort of related to a monopoly and they, you know, they have this luxury of doing things wrong?
Well, it's not a monopoly. It's a competitive industry. It's the insurance industry. So there's competition, and there's always changes in regulation that we're jumping to accommodate. So there's always a lot going on. And sometimes the fast-paced nature of what's happening is really disheartening. So as a developer, it's a luxury to be able to work on something consistently to keep your focus on it. That's really the way to be most efficient, is to be able to focus on something.
Sure.
And fucking finish it, right?
Yeah.
But we're always splitting our attention because we're working on 3 things at once and juggling different priorities. So it's very challenging. And it can be frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't like being split between so many different things. It's like, this is like, I guess, pro tip for anybody who like feels themselves in this situation. The way I handle it is I have like a notepad program. I use Crimson Editor, whatever. It's like just any note-taking program that allows tabs. That's the easiest thing. Notepad sucks. It just blows.
Notepad++ is pretty good.
Yes, Notepad++ is fine. You'll be good there. So what you want to do is you have a document that you keep open called active tasks. And every time you're working on something that's like an active priority, you add it to active tasks. If something new comes in that you have to care about immediately, put it in active tasks. And whenever you finish, you hit a break point in something and you have a moment, you just scan through your active tasks and you're like, okay, what is anything on this list that I can actually actively make headway on right now? And you update it accordingly. And when something is graduated to the point where either you finished it or it's no longer your problem, you can take that and put it in long-term notes, whatever. But just having this list of things that you've tracked the progress of that are your active tasks, as somebody who is not like a native multitasker, that's like the only way that I'm surviving with like people coming by asking me a ton of things. And so like, I have the owner of the company coming by and just like walking into the room, talking about like just off the cuff, saying all these things that he wants me to be looking into, and then like breezing out of the room. And it's kind of stressful because like he doesn't have an understanding of whatever I've been tasked with already, or, he's just, he gravitates to what's interesting to him. And he's a brilliant dude, but at the same time, it's like really overwhelming when the owner of the company has just asked me to do something and it's at the detriment of the other stuff I'm working on. But, I just keep this active task thing going, and that's like all. It's a little bit of a self-preservation mechanism because I can then say, when someone says, "What are you working on?" I then will just take the entire contents of my active tasks and paste it in an email and be like, this is what I'm working on.
Yeah.
And they see 15 different topics and the progress on each of them and exactly where each of those things are. And it's just nice to not, it's like preparing for your taxes, really. If you take your receipts as you get them and you put them into a folder, it's a lot easier than trying to figure out all the receipts that you need at the end of the year. So, whatever. Oh, did you do your taxes or did you fuck the man?
Oh, I did my taxes a couple months ago. I got my refund. I invested in equipment. Yeah, It's all spent.
Good. Good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
And now, of course, I want to spend I have $1,300 more already allocated to equipment I want that I don't have yet.
Yeah.
So it's very sad.
Well, you'll get there.
Yeah, I'll get there. I want to get there within the next month or two so I can more competently do the next recording project that I have lined up.
If you ever have a voice in your head that, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be smart about your equipment expenditures, but if you have a voice in your head that's like, no, there's stuff that I really should be spending money on, whatever, you have to keep in mind that, you don't want to die with, a completed set of requirements, but none of the things that you wanted to do. So yeah, just fucking get that equipment. That's cool because, it's really if I need a new chimney liner And
Right.
it's like $3,500. That's not nothing. Even though I got this cool hack that I'll share in a second, but it's like, yeah, I need to get it done, and it's one of those things where if I don't do it, it's going to be much worse later. Because
It's more damage is going to happen.
yeah, things happen. So like, yeah, I got to do it, but you can't be a slave to the comfort that you build for yourself. You gotta keep pursuing the things in life that interest you, and don't just like build like an armored position of safety. I guess that's my point. It's tricky.
I agree. You have to enjoy what you're doing. If you don't enjoy what you do for a living, and I think most people don't, they just kind of suffer through it because they need to make a living. Jesus, enjoy your free time, Spend some money on something that'll make you happy. And for some people it's kind of useless, nonsense, whatever, collectibles, Funko Pops, whatever makes you happy, pursue it.
Yeah.
If you want to write, fucking write. Like, do something. You might not make any money from it, but it's gonna heal your soul. It's gonna keep you alive. It's gonna keep you satisfied with the bullshit you have to deal with. Just do it.
Yeah, I think that is the meaning to life. I don't know if it's the meaning of life, but it's really what makes it worthwhile. So I think that's wise. That's wisdom.
That's where I'm at. I have to do like I can come home because my job right now is not very fulfilling. I do get fulfillment from building something that performs a function that actually works right, because that's still pretty thrilling to me. Like to actually build something that works. But, when I come home, some days I'm just out of energy and I just have to sit and chill and watch something, and I can't do much that's productive outside of work. But other days I'm like, fuck, I'm spending all this time doing shit for other people that I don't care about. Now I have to do something for myself. And that's really enriching, and I can't express how important that is. And it's something I neglected for a long time in years past. But lately I've been really concentrating on it, and although it feels like it really takes away my free time, it's really fulfilling at the same time, and it's rewarding. So I encourage anyone out there who has a creative impulse of any kind, to pursue that.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you're hitting on something that's really important, and I'm glad that you're finding that. I think I'm very lucky in that I'm an engineer professionally, and like that's sort of that's a general term, but that's actually what my position is. It's just like engineer, which is kind of generic. It's like, okay, but it's pretty rewarding for the kind of personality that I have, which is like I can be tasked with like just fucking around with all kinds of shit, and it's like, yeah, we need somebody to form these new vendor relations, or we need to design these cases for something, or it's like whatever. So like for the most part, I actually do some pretty cool shit at work. And then I come home and try to like resume the cool shit that I've been like wanting to do. So, it's like, I think just remember that you work to live, you don't live to work.
Yes.
Like, that's really like the important, you have to keep that separation. And that's part of why I think marijuana should be legalized, because if somebody has a job that they don't need, that like it actually is a detriment and makes their job so much harder, to be caught in solitary confinement in their job. Like, if somebody washes dishes, they absolutely should be stoned to the gills while they're washing dishes. Because otherwise it's just fucking cruel. Like, this is a creative person who is, like, doing something that, by all rights, in the next 15 years will be done by a robot. So, like, come on.
Yeah, you know, I have to say, Jesus, 20-some years ago, when I started out, my first job was fairly menial. I was washing dishes and mopping floors.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was doing that, I was like, this fucking sucks. I am never mopping a floor again professionally. And then I got a desk job. And after a couple years of that, I was like, God damn, I miss mopping floors.
That's hilarious.
So
the most hilarious thing is that, like, back when I was working for a cable company, I would absolutely, like, they all thought I had a great attitude, but it's really not a great attitude. I would love it when they were like, a truck has come in, we need help unloading it. And I'd be like, fuck yeah, I'm unloading that truck. And I would, like, leave the network engineering that I was doing and just, like, shift boxes off of a truck. And it was awesome.
It's a nice distraction, right?
Yeah, it was totally different. And, you know, I don't know. It was also like, when they needed somebody to clean, like, something spilled, I, like, would volunteer. And I would just think, like, they're paying me so much money to mop right now. This is absurd.
Yeah.
But whatever. That's cool.
Well, I have to say, to go back to what you were saying about your current job,
Mm-hmm.
at my last job, which was a long time ago now, I worked for a small company, and the founder and CEO took a certain liking to me, and I was like his personal email guru. When he had issues, I would try to help him out. And it was interesting because he was an immigrant, so he had a certain crazy asshole mentality.
Okay.
This is a guy who came here, you know, from a different country, grew up in Brooklyn, and started his own company.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a certain attitude, and it didn't mesh well with mine. But I survived there. I think I thrived there to an extent. But I got out of there as soon as I could, because it was kind of rough when the head guy is like, yeah, taking you off task to do other things, and you're like, I don't know if I'm really supposed to be doing this, but you are my boss, but you're not my boss, and
yes,
it's a very odd dynamic.
I mean, when you have to explain to your boss that you didn't do what they asked you to because their boss came by and had you do something different, they they are just like, look at you, and they're kind of disapproving, but at the same time kind of understanding that, like, what are you supposed to do? What are you going to do?
Yeah, you're just getting fucked with, and there's nothing they can say about it. So
Yeah.
I sympathize on that level. It's sometimes it's a tough thing to deal with.
It's weird, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm happier working for a larger company. I prefer being a smaller fish in a bigger pond. I think that has worked for me lately. I don't know. It's a trade-off.
It's interesting. I don't know. I like what I'm doing right now, and I like the people I'm working with, and I like the people that I'm working for. So it's good. I mean, I think that's really when people in this world are trying to find a job for themselves, to like what they're doing, like who they're working with, and like who they're working for, that's pretty good. I mean, overall, there's like a philosophical hierarchy of like, above that is like what you're working towards. And that's sort of like, that's a utopia if you like all those things. You like who you're working with, for, and towards. That's great. That's really something that's like ultimately fulfilling. And I'm not saying that I don't think that the job that I'm at currently has a big cultural mission. There's no ideological progress that they're pushing. It's more like I like that they kind of have a presence to take care of their people, and the purpose of the organization is to make everyone who works within the organization's lives better. So that's at least positive. I can get behind that, and it helps me like want to make things more successful for the company because I like the people I work with. But I don't know. Oh, we did. Oh, I have something I wanted to talk about.
Go ahead.
We had this visit from a high school. A high school came by, and it was under the pretense that this high school was coming by, and they had all these seniors who were interested in getting into technology fields, and they wanted to hear the stories of where we came from, what we were interested in, and how that actually like evolved into us having jobs in the technology industry, the technology sector. Except when the kids got there, and I say kids loosely, they were, they're seniors. They're I guess if they're precocious,
they're still kids.
16. Yeah, they're the young people.
Yeah.
17 years old or so in their senior year. But they didn't give a shit about technology. They're like, I want to be a nurse. I want to be a physician's assistant.
Really?
I don't know how they selected the kids to come on this field trip to our location because they did not particularly care about technology. So okay.
Well, technology is really what enables the amazing things that can be done in the medical field, so that they should care a little. That's weird.
I think that they enjoyed it. They were well behaved. They were actually very well behaved. Like, I think, do you have like big company functions where like people like they have like these company-wide talks and people like?
Rarely, like once a year maybe.
Oh, well, they happen pretty regularly, like maybe once every month or two at my place, which for the smaller the organization, the more often they'll want to do like a company focus meeting.
We've got like over 1,000 employees, so it's kind of tough.
Yeah. So like what's interesting is I watch my coworkers and I look, and this is like earlier talk of like the impulse to multitask and you can't just be in a moment. And I like watch my coworkers and see who is it that cannot help but mess with their phone during the meeting.
Yeah.
And like I'm kind of critical of the coworkers that like can't help it. They don't have the restraint but to mess with their phone like the whole time. But I don't know. I don't like. I suppose like a giant company. Well, I guess 1,000 is not a giant, but in a larger company, you never actually get to. It's like all on a phone conference call, bridge kind of thing. But
usually they do try to do a physical, or we have different locations around the state, and in fact in other states now. So headquarters is local. So that has the most people, and they do try to do something for everyone there. But in the remote offices, they have to do other things, and sometimes we teleconference, and sometimes we don't. So it's a mixed bag. But I had another point to make, but I lost it. Keep going.
No, okay. Well, that's mostly it. Just like I was looking at my coworker, who was like. He's an interesting character, but I'm not going to go into it because he might eventually hear this podcast. But he's interesting, and I just noticed that, like, he couldn't help but like look at his phone, like while the company people were speaking, and I was just like trying to give him the cue of like just rein it in, and like even if you're not paying attention, just appear to be paying attention, because it's like it's one of those things that like I would normally say that it would matter if someone noticed that you weren't really paying attention during this sort of thing. But at the other hand, like I was watching the head of marketing couldn't stop fucking with his phone, and like it's like okay, whatever.
Well, it's not. I mean, that's how the modern workplace trains us to be now.
I'm just an old dude who like now is of a sensibility that is outmoded, and this thing where like I will actually attempt to focus on one thing is not, it's just like, it's quaint. It's not really better. It's just quaint. It's old-timey to focus on one thing without like also be checking your email and also be looking at Reddit
Yeah.
and kind of listening to the guy who's talking.
It's fucked up because they, and by they I mean the workplace, will tell you to be present and to pay attention at these things. But what they really want you doing is everything at the same time. So you get mixed messages about this all the time, and it's a little disheartening. It's a little frustrating at times, but you know, we're all going through it, and it's the modern reality, so we just have to deal with it.
Things keep moving, you know. New things come out, old things die off. But speaking of, I'm going to name a few recent. We've had a rash of deaths in the media, so I'm going to just name a name, and you say how you feel about it.
Okay.
Barbara Bush.
Oh,
Former First Lady.
Couldn't give a shit. Fuck George Bush, CAA, fucking asshole. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, I'm torn.
I mean,
know?
he's a human being on one level.
Yeah, he's a human being, and I have empathy for him feeling for his life partner dying.
Yeah, it's sad.
But one, she was old as fuck.
Yes.
And two, they're fucking responsible for a lot of death.
Mm-hmm.
Like without a whole lot of regard.
Yeah.
Like they just okay, so whatever. Okay.
Fuck
Avicii.
Who?
Avicii?
That young kid?
Yeah, he was 28 years old.
Never heard his name before he died.
Oh, really?
No idea.
You know, he I don't know, a music producer and DJ of
Whatever.
some notoriety.
What, did he overdose? What happened?
No, I don't think he did. I think that he might have had health conditions that were not helped by his lifestyle. But I think in the end it was actually just like inherent health conditions that he had been monitoring and eventually got the better of him.
Yeah, sorry, couldn't care.
Okay.
Don't know him.
Vern. I'm spacing on his last name. The guy who played Mini-Me in the Austin Powers.
Oh yeah, I saw that
Vernon
today.
something. He
Troy?
passed away. Vernon Troy, yes. He passed away.
Not a big impact. Sorry.
I don't know for sure. I think, judging from the things that had been said about it, I think it may have been a suicide. And so, you know, if nothing else, I think that there's an important focus that people should have, that mental health is an important thing in people's lives, and it shouldn't be just trivialized. But,
you know, I have mixed feelings on that, because is it a mental health issue, or is it just a life choice? You know, obviously there's got to be a spectrum, but some people don't want to deal with where they're at, and I think that's a valid choice in a way.
oh boy, you know,
I don't know.
It's definitely a complicated philosophical issue, because you could say that like our entire psychological construct of the society we live in is pushing us into unhealthy psychological like life choices.
Yeah.
So, like when we talk about shit like trying to keep the pretense of working to live, not living to work, that's like, to some people that's going to sound profound. Like, yeah, you're right. I really want to do the things I want to do, and I don't, what I'm working should support what I want out of my life. I'm not an indentured servant. I'm not a slave. This is not the life that I want for myself. But the society tells us you're not successful unless you are, attaining these things that are really elusive and not entirely possible for most people to attain.
Yeah. I mean, just look at the cost of home ownership and,
oh, yeah.
Some of the houses, even around here, which is not an expensive area to live, get really ridiculous. And you feel like if you don't have that, $250,000 house with a pool, that you're a piece of shit. And that's just not true.
Right.
So I don't know. I've been acquainted with a couple people who now have committed suicide. And, I don't know. One of them, both of them really, I kind of had not been close in touch with in the last couple of years before they did that. But it sucks. I don't know their life experiences or situations at the time, but I think it's a valid choice there's fucking 7 billion of us. No one is missed is the real issue. And the world keeps turning. That's the saddest part. When someone you love dies, you realize the world doesn't stop because they're gone. You feel like it should, and it doesn't. And that's where the real heartbreak comes from. That nothing fucking changes except you're shattered, but no one else is. And it's fucked up. So, I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say.
Well, I think that there's like an interesting concept there, which is that when somebody passes, the ripples that are felt are that passing changes the people who were close to them. And maybe those people are going to be more supportive in the future. And, it's not, the world in general doesn't change, but in a small aspect, those people are missed and they can affect change in the people who were close to them. Maybe, hopefully.
Maybe, but, maybe that's, I don't know. Who can say that that's wrong, though? Yeah,
in the end, it's tough. What is the meaning of life? I don't feel particularly lost in thinking that life is meaningless. Life is like as meaningful as the process of what you're doing. And when it's over, I intend to live forever. That's my personal goal. But that aside, it's not like, I don't know, it's not, there's no goal, there's no like completion status that I have to measure life by. It's like, no, I live and my life is very fulfilling while I'm living it. And while if I wanted to stop living it, that's I view that as a personal choice.
right.
I would certainly hope that people who are in a circumstance where they don't want to keep living, they have options available to them to help them change their circumstance rather than stop living. But
I agree.
But that said, I certainly agree with, what do they call it? There's a certain term for euthanasia when it's merciful euthanasia. When somebody is in a terminal condition that is not good, and there's no reasonable expectation that it's going to turn around. This arrogant thing of no, you have to keep, this person has to keep suffering because it'd be wrong for them not to is just asinine. It's like, I don't really get that at all. Like, that's not compassion. That's not ethics. That's just like arrogance. But,
yeah, I'm a firm believer that anyone should have the right to check out whenever they want to. And it sounds light when I say it that way, but I mean, really, you should have control over your life and the end of your life. And if someone is trying to take that away from you, that's just wrong. Any way you color it.
yeah.
So that's what I believe.
Well,
in
nobody,
anyway.
I don't think anybody should be a slave to anyone else. To anyone else. Feeling responsibility to other people or that's tough. I mean, it's not, feeling care for other people is a fine reason to want to not, if the only thing keeping you alive is that you care about people around you and you want to keep helping them, that's kind of valiant. That's not the worst.
If you can take meaning from that.
But
if that's enough for you, that's great.
But like an obligation to other people is certainly not what you should be deriving like value for your life. I don't know. It's a heavy topic we've drifted into, but you know, sure.
It's a heavy one.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know. Some states are pretty enlightened in that you have a right to end your life. This is not one of those states, so.
Is it not? No?
I don't think
New
so.
York? No? What are they going to do?
I don't know.
They're going to put you in like...
They don't allow doctors to help you. I'll put it that way.
Oh, okay.
Like, you don't have that control.
Tide Pods, bro. That'll do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly not the best way to go, but
I don't know.
That'll do it.
New York is trying to be so progressive in certain ways, but in other ways, they're just so behind the eight ball. It's like their medical marijuana law is a fucking joke.
Oh, yeah.
And, I just don't get it.
With the disclaimer that I don't smoke, I see recreational marijuana as emblematic of what is wrong with society in terms of like, if people think that should be illegal, that is the most ridiculous thing. Like, okay, we have this recreational pastime that is far less dangerous than absolutely like
almost anything.
Yeah, well, like I'm just thinking like in terms of if you were to propose reinstatement of prohibition, at least you could argue that people die. At least you could argue that like people can drink themselves to death.
And people can be addicted to alcohol, and people can die from alcohol withdrawal.
But that's getting a little heavy, man. Let's rein it back. I don't want to, take it to the dark corridors of human existence. It's a bit much.
Well,
have you been seeing the remake of Lost in Space?
No.
Good looking robot.
Yeah, is it any good? He doesn't seem to have the quintessential Robbie-ness, though.
No, very much not.
Well, that's fucked up.
Well, hey, you can't always have like that same robot.
I got no Robbie-ness, and there's no Gary Oldman. What is there for me?
Well, before Gary Oldman, who was the original actor from Lost in Space? There is Parker Posey.
I don't like her.
Oh, I love Parker Posey.
Oh, she annoys the piss out
Parker
of me.
Posey is great, but strangely, the person who looks exactly like her, Elizabeth Banks, I do not like.
That is hilarious.
They look exactly the same. They're the same goddamn person.
I don't know about exactly, but they're close. I see what you're saying.
There's things that I've like thought like not Parker Posey's best work because it wasn't Parker Posey.
Like Showgirls?
Showgirls in Perfect Pitch. I thought I was like it's like, well, yeah, Parker Posey, I don't know. She's funny, but I don't know. It's kind of weird, but it's just because it's not her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I'm like 7 episodes in and they toy with me and I'm like, in some in some ways the show is like bullshit, but in some ways it's good. I don't know,
Okay.
I keep coming back.
So overall, it's worth it?
I haven't stopped.
Okay.
I've been trying to, I had a difficult point where I stopped watching Altered Carbon.
Haven't started.
It's
It's on our
good.
list, but...
It is good.
Okay.
But I got to like a certain episode and then got derailed, not really for any fault of the episode or series. It's just like when you get like 10 out of 13 or 8, 8 to 10 out of 13, and then something comes up and you have to take a little hiatus from watching, it can really fuck it up. And I don't know.
I hear
It's
you.
hard to get back in the swing of it.
Yes. Agreed.
So, is there any movie or show on the pop culture tip that you have been enjoying, either old or new to you?
Well, there's a couple new seasons I haven't been able to start yet because I'm still trying to catch up on some other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really enjoying, although it's dark as fuck and a little disturbing. I'm loving Jessica Jones season 2. I mean, it's heavy, but I think it's quality.
Well, when you finish, maybe if you finish, how far are you?
I think we have 2 more.
Oh, okay. Well, when you finish, I'll chat with you about it.
Okay.
I have criticism.
I'm enjoying it. That's all I can say. I think Legion is good. I'm excited to watch season 2 of that.
I really want to start getting into that. I've heard it's pretty cool.
You would enjoy it. Yes.
Is it supernatural?
No. It's a mutant thing. It's
okay.
It's a Marvel universe sort of New Mutants. If you ever read it,
Sure.
One of those characters. I never read it, so I only had a couple issues of some crossover shit. But
cool.
Some nerdy '80s shit for you. But it's really good. It's different. It's very different. I think you dig it. I'm an Ash vs. Evil Dead fan. Have not been able to start season 3 yet. Excited to start that. And I'm an Arrow fan, so I haven't started season 6 yet, but I'm excited to start that.
His name is Oliver Queen.
That's right.
That's right, goddammit.
His name is Robert Paulson.
Is that his actual name? The guy?
No.
Oh.
Project Chaos. Never mind.
Oh, okay. Well, no, wait. No, we'll dive into this. What is Project Chaos? Oh, in Legion?
I'm sorry, I misspoke. Project Mayhem.
Project Mayhem.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
The first rule is you don't talk about it.
Oh shit. I don't want to break any rules.
Second rule is you don't talk about it.
Okay. Okay, then cool.
You remember Fight Club? Come on.
Well, I do know Fight Club, but but I don't know. I still don't know who Agent Coulson is.
His name is Robert Paulson.
Is it?
Hey, don't worry about it. Never mind. Anyway.
Okay. People are going to listen and they're going to be like, oh, fuck, Mechno doesn't know shit. Where the fuck
It's all right. We're drunk.
Okay.
They know that.
Yeah, sure. That's right.
But, halfway through that second drink, whoa. Like, whoa. That's all I'm saying.
You're feeling something?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, great. That's good.
For a while now.
All right. Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to put that on my list. Is Legion, how can I access Legion?
Just torrent the shit out of it like a red-blooded American would.
Okay. Yeah, I
think it's on FX originally.
Okay. Is it still a current series?
Yeah, season 2 is airing now.
Cool.
I think they're only on episode 3 or so.
All right. Nice.
It's pretty crazy. It's hard to describe. A lot of different viewpoints. Part of it is sorting out what is happening through the eyes of a person who is somewhat mentally ill, or is he, or what the fuck is going on. So it's interesting.
Oh, this reminds me so much of... Maybe I have seen this show.
If you saw it, you'd remember.
I think I did. Now, wait a minute. In the first... He's like like, I guess... Mutants are rated on these tiers, and he's like a really high tier mutant, but he has mental issues, and he goes to a psychiatric facility. Is that like a lot of it? And there's like this parasite that's on his soul that... Am I thinking of the right show? I love that show.
Yes.
I really enjoyed it, and I'm happy to know that they're like in season 2 now, and I really enjoyed the music.
Yeah.
It was really well done score. Like, I actually looked up the guy who did. There's like, I'm trying to remember. There's a Stravinsky like inspired tune that he has as like part of the accompanying music for something that's happening. It's like they're going into the rite of, it's like a riff from the Rite of Spring that is particularly a powerful like movement that they use in the soundtrack, and it's really good.
If I remember correctly, I was in FYE a couple weeks ago, and they carry a lot of vinyl now, and there was a record of the Legion soundtrack available.
Oh, really?
So yeah, if you're into that, it's out there.
I think I might have to go do that.
Well, you don't have to buy the vinyl, but I'm sure.
No, I mean I have a record player, and I might as well.
Vinyl is bullshit. To be honest, it's not a convenient format.
There was a really funny political cartoon that I saw recently, and it was somebody who was like standing in front of his record player, and like it's one of those like super fat heavy mass platters on his turntable. It's like a really obvious like extremist setup, and he was like, what really attracted me to vinyl was the inconvenience and expense. and I was like, yes, that's fucking it exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, you just want something that you have to meticulously clean and maintain and is ridiculously expensive to get anywhere. That's like, there you go. But yeah, I'm sure,
whatever sonic, and I think that's debatable, whatever the sonic virtues are, it's fucking inconvenient.
Oh, extremely.
Digital is so much better. I'm sorry, analog purists, but it's just how I feel.
There's something to be said, though. I will say that in the nature of the soundtrack, and I wish I could remember the artist who did the soundtrack for Legion, because he did a really good job, but something about the nature of that soundtrack, I actually think it's going to weather really well on a media that degrades. So as you're listening on a media where there's junk on your needle and there's dust on the platter and like there's more
noise.
Well, not noise. What do they call that when? I'm drawing a blank on a really simple word. It's like when you have a group project and everyone is participating. What is that?
Crosstalk?
No, it's something that starts with this. Collaboration. A collaboration between your environment and this media. It just is going to bring a richness. And I think as the sound quality degrades, it's going to pick up character. That's just for this one piece, and I don't say that for all vinyl in general, but this one piece, I think, as it gets pops and cracks, it's like kind of cooler.
Well, I have to say, as much as I would shit on the convenience of vinyl, because it's a, by nature, pretty inconvenient format to try to deal with, I do buy into the romanticism of having something on vinyl. I do have some things on vinyl that I really like having on vinyl, even though I never listen to them. And as an artist, I have looked into getting something printed on vinyl, And let me just say, it is prohibitively expensive. There is no way a small artist can afford to do even a very small run without, a Kickstarter kind of campaign.
Yeah.
Without some kind of pre-orders. It's tough. So even printing CDs is a bit expensive. But vinyl is like, whoa. You need a certain minimum order, and it really adds up. So it's kind of sad, but someday maybe I'll be able to put something out on vinyl. That would be interesting.
It's a nice nostalgic thing. Yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah.
We haven't talked anything about DJing, but I just have this, DJing is such a weird thing, because there's this big debate of Serato versus Tractor for DJing, and it really comes down to, there is Tractor Scratch that lets you use timecode vinyl to control your tracks, but Serato is, I think, only uses timecode vinyl. They have these records that have what sounds like static that gets played through the system and is interpreted by your computer to say what your position in the song is. And so you can speed up and slow down and jump forward in the track, and the time code will say where in the song it is. So it gives you a vinyl interface into your mixing, which fucking sucks. Because vinyl, again, it's fucking inarticulate. It's so difficult to work with. To become a master of, what do they call that? Collage art via vinyl is a true feat, because that shit's ridiculous.
It takes serious skills.
If you want to be an exact time into your track, it's so much overhead. It goes so beyond the wanting and understanding what you want, and is incredible overhead to actually be able to do that. That it's the art is it's if painters had to learn to paint with their feet, even if their hands work fine. It's no, it isn't truly painting unless you're using your feet. It's fuck you, dude. Seriously.
In my radio class back in college, we learned about turntable cue times. If it took a quarter turn of the turntable to come up to speed, you would find your cue point and then by hand rotate. Yeah, exactly. So there's techniques to deal with that stuff, but it's so imprecise compared to a digital cueing where it's all on the screen. You can see the waveform. You know exactly where you're at. It's a different art. It's really...
Oh, it's huge. It's way different. The whole thing about turntables and slip mats is that you're holding the record at your, where you want to cue, and the platter is spinning, and you have a layer between your actual media and the platter that is intended to slip until you let go, and then it will catch and give you an instantaneous start. And it's a ridiculous thing. It's you have to have a piece of felt and then a piece of plastic under the felt to give you the right texture. And come on, why do you have to make it this hard? But there's purists. There's people, there's people who are if you're a digital DJ, you're not a real DJ. And I'm just
there's some truth to that, I guess. I mean...
I don't agree with that at all.
Digital makes it easy. There's still an art to it. And there's a magic to song selection and how you transition from song to song.
Sure.
But it's a whole different skill set, I guess, is what I would say. It's a different difficulty level.
For me, it comes down to gatekeeping. It's some people want to just make it that much harder to start so that only the people who are really dedicated can get past step 0. Which I see what value there is to that, because then the whole art form is elevated, because everyone who's at step 1 has put in the time to make it to step 1. But at the other hand, like, seriously, beat matching on vinyl is bullshit. Like, it's bullshit. I'm dyslexic, so fuck you. It's like, no, I'm not going to be kept out of the club because I understand technology. No, fuck that. It's okay. Yes, you can use the sync button. The art is not in using or not using the sync button. It's in understanding what works and what doesn't.
Yes.
And, like, that's where you're going to be a good DJ or not a good DJ.
Yeah.
And, like,
so many people don't get that.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
But, you know.
They just beat match everything and just destroy.
Well.
In a bad way.
That's true. I mean, I've heard people who are actually pretty good, proficient DJs who don't have an aesthetic regard, and they just, like, are cutting through song after song, and it's not enjoyable because they have, in moving one song to the next, they don't capture the essence of why you celebrate and like that song. It's all about just, like, reference where, like, oh, I know that song. Oh, I know that song. Oh, I know that song. But it's not like...
It's a stepping stone to somewhere next. It's not...
Right.
They don't care about the essence of what they're playing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like Ready Player One.
I haven't seen it.
Well, I read the book. I saw the movie. It's like a big... I don't know.
Sounds like you were disappointed?
I was disappointed with the book and the movie in that it's all, like, references. It's all, like, referencing things from the 80s and, you know, oh, I get that reference. Oh, I get that reference. And it's like, I'm not going to get into it because it's not worth it. But, like, that's for somebody who's doing, like, a mass mix across a lot of different stuff, there's no aesthetic statement being made by just playing enough of a song that someone, like, recognizes that song and then it moves to the next song. Unless it can be done well. I've heard there's a DJ called DJ Error, who, I can't say he's a good DJ, but he's really amusing, and you actually get a feel for his personality, because in a lot of ways I identify with him. He like has really questionable taste. Like, he does things like he'll move from AC/DC into the Cantina song from Star Wars, and you're just like, what the fuck is this guy doing? But it's like, it's where you get to, like, you're riding piggyback on someone who just has inherently, like, weird taste. And it's kind of fun and exciting to be along for that ride. But it's not always like that.
Hit and miss, is that what you're saying?
Well, he's usually pretty good. I mean, you know that it's like, it's going to be coarse at times, and it's not going to be perfect, but it's generally a pretty fun ride. But you get other DJs who are pretty technically accomplished, who can do, like, enough beat matching and key matching to an extent. But, like, you hear a song and you like it, but then, you know, it's like such a small portion of that song that you don't get to the elements of it that you liked before it's off on something else. And they think it's enough that you recognize that song and they move on. But whatever.
No, you have to let them have the song. They know the song. They know how long the song is. You have to let them enjoy that song and play the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, I think we've hit on that before. That like,
Yeah,
there's something sacred about certain songs, and you don't fuck with it.
yeah,
Or you do fuck with it, but you do so with a presence of mind and a deliberate, like, fucking with it.
right. If you want to play the short, like, single mix of Tainted Love instead of the longer maxi mix with Where Did Our Love Go, that's like 7 minutes long or whatever, that's okay. You pick your version and you do it, but you do the whole thing. If you're going to do it, commit to it.
Or you play the Coil version of
Sure.
Tainted Love, which is like, that is absolutely, like, it's a fucked up cover because it's like very slowly taking a shit on the people who love that song. You know it very slowly because the thing drags on forever. Oh, it's so glorious. It is such a fucking irreverent piece of monstrosity.
Nice.
You know the song, right?
I don't think I've heard it, to be honest.
Oh my God. It's like so slow. They slow everything down to like a third of the speed and like they just go through it and it's so mopey and there's like discordant keyboard. It's like chant, chant, sometimes chant, chant. And it's just like it's like a huge abomination in slow motion. It's amazing.
Sounds good.
But bless it,
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I guess that's really the magic of covers is sometimes a cover does not understand that like it has to bring something new or really epitomize what is magic about the original in order to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
They're just like, no, I'm gonna do it like in a modern way, and it's good, but it's not good.
I think some people try to bring something different.
Oh yeah,
They don't realize that they didn't. And I might be guilty of that myself. I don't know. Like you have certain things that you love, and you're like, oh, let me try a take on this. Maybe it'll be interesting to some people. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. You do what you can, but...
Do you have an example? I'm trying to think of... I don't know if I've ever heard you cover something.
I did a free track that's on Bandcamp only.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cover of The Cure's A Strange Day.
Okay.
So I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know if it really breaks any new ground. It's just kind of my version of something they did, and...
So I'm not super familiar with the original. Was it big?
Not really. It was on Pornography from '82, the gothest of all Cure records, in my opinion.
I feel like simply your choice of which one to cover is something in itself. Like when you're covering not Just Like Heaven, when you're like actually seeing something like, whoa, this is like a really cool track and I really appreciate this track and this is not like something that was like crazy radio play. I think that's like it can be disrespectful or it can be respectful, but like either one can be meaningful, and it sounds like yours is probably pretty good.
I did what I could. I tried to have a little bit of fun with it. It was kind of a Halloween present for anyone who was paying attention, which wasn't many people. But
that's cool.
Yeah. Did what I could. I think I'm satisfied with it, but, as a Cure fan, I have no perspective on what the hell I'm doing.
So how would you feel if someone covered one of your songs?
That would be interesting. I would be very flattered. Because I would not ever expect that. But,
I could see it.
Really?
Yeah, I think that there's a bunch of your tracks that you're familiar with the Long Lost, right?
Yeah.
I would love to hear a long lostified version of, is it Uninvited that I'm thinking of?
Maybe.
I think that's the one I'm thinking of.
The spooky song with Haley singing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think that, like, it's not incompatible with their style, and just to hear what they would do with that. But yeah, I could see it being a thing.
That would be interesting, for sure. That song isn't even out yet, by the way. But
Oh.
Paul has heard it a few times.
Sorry. Hey, sorry guys. Well, let me tell you, someday you're in for a treat. You're really in for a good time.
Well, thank you. That should be out soon. Maybe by the time we actually release this podcast, the album will be out, but we'll see.
Did we talk about the death of Rufflecon?
We did, yeah. We
Okay.
mentioned it.
Okay, good.
Tragic news, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what if anything happens.
Probably not, but that's life, man.
That could be your next mission, I'm telling you. Too much work, I know.
It's a tough culture.
Yeah.
They're vipers, man.
Put your own spin on it. Do a little something different.
All right. I'll do it. Sure. We'll do a goth fashion event.
Yeah, have some bands, whatever.
Sounds good. All right.
How is the outdoor tribal industrial festival progressing? If at all.
There hasn't been a whole lot of headway, other than I know more bands that I would like to have involved. Like, there's actually more, like, there's some local stuff that was interested in playing in the area that might actually come around in October. An artist, Brian Blacknoise, a.k.a. Morris Black. He's fairly local and is pretty good. And it would be great to have him in the area, but I think my step one, I don't know if I mentioned, but step one is I need to attend an outdoor festival.
Yeah.
Just there's so many different moving pieces to it, and so many things that I don't know to consider. Mm-hmm. That having gone to one and having had the frustration of, like, how the fuck am I supposed to shower?
Yeah.
Like, having gone through that is going to really help.
Just figure out the logistics. And
I feel like they all are supposed to degenerate into a drug orgy, but I'm not sure about that.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah, hey, you're there. Why not? You might as well.
Yeah.
But, I jest. I would not sincerely say that any culture is based around non-artistic, or at least artistic effort. I mean, sure, people love getting fucked up. It's great. Yeah, it's fantastic. But, that's not all there is to, because you can get fucked up at home.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I have been really curious if people have taken psychedelics and just put on VR goggles.
Oh, that would be crazy.
Yeah, like, it seems like it would be a good combo or a horrible combo. Is there a Hellraiser VR yet?
Oh, God. There could be. I don't know. I don't think so.
And I saw that there was, like, the closest thing to being a dangerous VR was Skyrim VR. Because people already were, like, losing, like, huge amounts of time to Skyrim.
Yeah.
And so to make that a VR thing where you're, like, actually in it, yeah, your life's over.
The next 10 years is going to be really interesting as these things develop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially AR is really interesting too. And some certain companies are really going whole hog into that. So That will be very interesting.
I was gonna get a headset, a head-mounted display that, it's really weird. It doesn't use small screens. Instead, it has ultra-fast micro mirrors and mini projectors that actually project the image onto your retina.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it seemed pretty cool. I was okay with that. And strangely, it was really cheap. It was like $250.
That makes me suspicious somehow.
Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah, my whole thing, I wanted to be able to DJ with a headset on so that there is no laptop in front of me. There's just the headset and I'm seeing everything I need to see in that.
That would be cool.
It would be.
You could be out fucking dancing if that was the case. Why be on stage?
That's true. I have actually done remote. I had an iPad remote application and did DJ a set from the dance floor.
Cool.
But yeah, I don't know. I think the next evolution is that I do want a heads-up display of some sort, either completely immersive, like a full goggle set, or something that's like augmented reality with an overlay. But something I've been looking at, and I can't remember the name of the thing, but it was it is suspiciously approachably priced. You're like, how could they really do this? Oh,
yeah,
shit.
me.
Conveniently, your drink was empty. Good.
Yes, but not for much longer.
Yeah.
And with that said, maybe we should wrap this bitch up.
Yeah, let's pack it up. It's a good time.
All right. Any last thoughts?
I'm trying to think if there's any forecast I have for future episodes, things that are coming up. Well, we're getting into spring.
Finally.
We're approaching. Yeah, finally. Jeez.
It's been a rough winter here in upstate New York.
Yeah. It goes away and then comes back, and it's just it's kind of rough.
Yeah.
We just passed 420.
Yeah.
Which I think it was a monumental day for weed smoking because it was 420 that fell on a Friday.
Oh yeah.
Which should have been that should have been a big deal.
Pretty major, yeah.
Yeah.
But let's just say it's not just weed smoking. It's weed vaping and weed ingesting and all the other ways one can do the weed.
Yeah, please let's not box it in.
Yeah, let's not be bigoted about it.
It's a whole horticultural event. Yeah. So, what with all of Canada set to go legal recreational in July, I think.
That's amazing.
And Vermont and Massachusetts on the cusp.
Yeah.
I really think that New York is on the verge as well. I think within the next year it's really possible that New York's going to be like, you know what, fuck it. It's fine. Okay, it's fine. Okay, you got us. It's fine.
I just heard today, actually, New York Senator Chuck Schumer introduced federal legislation to make weed legal at the federal level, and then the states can decide, but there will be no DEA federal agency cracking down everywhere.
That's good.
So that would be amazing. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a nice step.
It may not happen right now, but it will happen.
Eventually.
Because I would love to, I have strange aspirations to get into food service for some reason. But I was going to, I really want to open a dispensary cafe.
Oh, cool.
And my whole thing is I want to find a bank that has closed and use, because banks have, especially an older bank, they have beautiful lobbies. And most importantly, they have a vault where you can close up your inventory and
it'll be safe.
Assets, right? So but the way it works now is such a crapshoot because even in states where it's legal, you have like arbitrary police raids, and then police are caught on tape just like going through your store and taking your inventory. So like, whatever. It's fucked up. It's got to stop.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Yep.
So, yeah, man. I would
So,
love
yeah.
to DJ at your dispensary cafe.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be dope. I think, I hope to talk about this project, this Icons of Underground Culture art project that I'm working on, that hopefully you're going to be working with me on.
Would love to.
That should be a future thing, but I'm committed to 10. I think I'm going to do 10 artist commissions. I have 5 canvases, so to speak, right now, but I might get an additional 5. I'm thinking about it.
Awesome.
So yeah, but yeah, that's in future time. So until then, build up a good thirst, and we'll have the 2 cups ready.
Stay thirsty, kids.
Yeah. Peace.
All right.
Peace out.
Peace out. Have a good night.
Bye.
Woo!